With great pleasure, we welcome to the show Fox News chief political analyst, my friend Brit Hume. Brit, thank you for coming on. I mean, what is it, just to start out here, I know what J.D. Vance is saying, this radicalization of leftist violence, I mean, no violence is good, that's for sure. But it just seems to me in recent years, it's all come from the left. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's downstream, Larry, from Trump derangement syndrome. A significant proportion of our national population, particularly liberals and Democrats and journalists, considered the emergence of Donald Trump on our national scene as a national emergency, that he was a uniquely bad man, that all the stuff he said, all the bragging and all the stuff he does that annoys people was all to be taken most seriously, more seriously than what he actually did. And there's been a certain craziness ever since. And I would mark this, the attack on the murder of Charlie Kirk, as Trump derangement syndrome affecting these young people in Utah who either were involved in this, as the killer obviously or apparently was, and those who may have known about it as affected by that.
You know, of course, to me, no violence is justified. No violence in politics is certainly justified. But I think the left has made a big mistake here, Brit. You look at these numbers, 37,000 requests to start your own chapter. That's up from 900 college chapters and 1,200 high school chapters. And I think that Charlie Kirk has had a much larger influence, a much larger impact on young people, Gen Z, college, but on everybody than people on the left seem to understand.
Yeah, as I've said, Larry, I think this murder will have a long tail in terms of the effect on people. I think people found it, there's been a certain level of political violence. We've seen it over a period of time, and it's appalling to everybody. There was something about this that had a greater impact. The fact that he was so young, that for all the things that are said about him, what he was basically was a Bible-believing Christian conservative, which marked him in the eyes of far too many people as an evil person, and that murder was the result, has really shocked the nation. And you mentioned the numbers of chapters that are being organized in the aftermath of his death. That's a symptom. The people that are turning out for these various observances about him or another. This is a big deal, and I think that the people on the left, of whom there are far too many, who have attacked him the way they have in the aftermath of his death, have made in political terms a terrible mistake. This is revolting to people to hear this and see this stuff. And I think it reflects badly on them, of course. But it also reflects badly on the party that represents them, and that would be the Democratic Party.
Well, that's it. The question, is the Democratic Party now suddenly, I won't say suddenly, in recent years, as you say, the Trump derangement syndrome, is the Democratic Party now the party of violence? Is that where this thing has gone?
Well, it has, as polling suggests, it has more of a foothold, more of a toehold on popular opinion on the left and among Democrats than it does among Republicans. But look, let's be sure, Larry, violence in politics is a minority position everywhere. It's just more so among Republicans right now than it is among Democrats. And that's, politically, that could be damaging to Democrats over a period of time. And it continues. You see these, every day I read something hideously vile and unfair and false about Charlie Kirk, the characterizations of him and so forth. It's appalling, repellent.
That's the thing, it just, somebody who stands for free speech, freedom, like Charlie Kirk, and actually, let me add it, free markets, okay? Free speech, freedom, free markets. Calling him a fascist or calling him Hitler just doesn't, I don't see how that can stick. And I think people should be called on it when they do that kind of thing. It just doesn't stick. It's just not true. It's not historically true. It's not definitionally true. It just isn't true, Brit.
I agree entirely, Larry. And there are two words here that we've been hearing a lot in recent days. that I think are being heard too much in our national discourse. One of them is fascist, I think being said often by people who really have no idea what fascism really means. You've heard it about Trump, and you heard it about Charlie Kirk, and the other one is hate. People think that those who disagree with them on issues, particularly involving gay rights and other matters of that kind, are guilty of hate. The one thing Charlie Kirk was not a hater. He was actually a very cheerful and good-natured guy who had very strong opinions, to be sure. But you know what he was doing at the time he was murdered is an example of what he was. That was he was making a talk to a large group of college students on their campus, in their midst, and being willing to stand there and take on all comers and argue with them. And he let people have their say. And he was not unkind to them. His arguments could be pretty sharp, and you know, if you made a weak argument, you could be embarrassed by him. But that wasn't. But he wasn't the guy who went around insulting people. He was not a hater by any stretch. And yet, on the left, that is a widespread view.
Yeah, just the last one, and I appreciate you coming on so much. You know, it's an awful, awful event. What has happened here? The shooting is just awful. But is it possible, Brit, that this is a turning point? That the style of dialogue and civility, and I add humor. I like your pointing out humor. Charlie was a humorous guy. That, you know, is it possible this is a turning point in this whole great battle?
Yeah, it gives new meaning to the name of his organization, Turning Point USA. If his murder turned out to be an even larger turning point than he could have generated, you know, in life, that would be striking. Now, I think, look, Turning Point USA may now grow. You know, the numbers on chapters forming and so forth are quite impressive. But remember this, Turning Point USA to a great extent was Charlie. And it was his unique ability to engage people, to persuade them, to convince them to see it his way, to give voice to a point of view that many young people growing up don't hear very much. It remains to be seen how long that movement can go and how far that movement can go without him. One can hope that from the ranks of Turning Point USA, people may emerge who can carry on as he did. But that'll be a real challenge.
Yes, well, we will see. Brit Hume, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it as always.
Always glad to talk to you, Larry.
All right, great stuff. Do well.